Welcome to this module discussing Federalist number 71 by Alexander Hamilton. We're in the midst of trying to explain the design of the executive branch. And in Federalist number 71, Alexander Hamilton is addressing the idea of a four-year term for the president. And the anti-federalists were somewhat concerned about the length of the term, in addition to the fact that the president was not limited in the amount of terms under the original Constitution. So, defending the four-year term, Hamilton basically makes two separate assertions here. One is that the individual must be invested in the office, and the second is that the president needs to have leverage vis-a-vis Congress within the context of our separation of powers system and checks and balances. So let's explore a little bit about what Hamilton had to say here. First of all, there was some discussion about having a one-year term for the president. And basically, Hamilton takes the position that the four-year term would mean that an individual was invested in the office. If you think about this, why would you as an individual maybe only, having a one-year term, realizing that Congress could constantly wait you out on anything, why would you exert your own political capital in order to be able to say, for example, veto legislation that might be popular at that point in time? It would really have made the president more of a ceremonial head of government rather than a person that was integrally involved in the checks and balances and separation of powers. So to quote Hamilton from this, in kind of the flowery language that he uses, the inference from this is that a man acting in the capacity of chief magistrate under a consciousness that in a very short time he must lay down his office will be apt to feel himself too little interested in it to hazard any material censure or perplexity from the independent exertion of his powers. That's just a long way, really, of saying, why would I lay my head on the line if I know that I'm going to be out of office in a very short time, right? And if we want people of good character and stability to be president of the United States and to exert their powers, people's short-term interest is going to triumph over their willingness to be able to lay their head on the line here. So four-year term will give people more power to be invested in the office. The second thing that we see Hamilton asserting here in Federalist number 71 is that the president has to have leverage vis-a-vis Congress. And in talking about this, Hamilton really gets to the heart of our idea of representative democracy. He makes the argument that people may not always have the right opinions in mind. And going back to earlier Federalist papers, the idea of government and our representatives should be to refine and enlarge public opinion. And what Hamilton says is there may be instances in which Congress itself does not refine and enlarge those public opinions. So what we need is a president who has the gumption to be able to stand up to Congress and to be able to veto legislation when public opinion is on one side, but the president realizes that the public good is on a different side. And, what he says here says is it's certainly desirable that the executive should be in a situation to dare to act on his own opinion with vigor and decision. Why would he do that? Well, because he has a four-year term and again is invested within the office. So it's important for the president to be independent and to be able to stand up against not only public opinion, but also Congress. Having a four-year term where he's invested is important. So he said, Hamilton kind of closes off by saying he might then with prudence hazard the incurring of reproach in proportion to the proofs he had given of his wisdom and integrity and to the title that he acquired to respect and attachment of his fellow citizens. In other words, give the president a four-year term. Over the time, public may see the wisdom of his activities, and if not, he doesn't get reelected. That's the way it goes. All right. So, basically, Hamilton thinks this is a kind of a win-win situation. And he says, on the one hand, a duration of 4 years will contribute to the firmness of the executive in a sufficient degree to render it a very valuable ingredient in the composition. So on the other, it is not too long to justify any alarm for the public liberty. So it's a good balance. 4-year term, not too short, not too long, invest power in the presidency so that an individual takes charge and uses that office to do the public good.